Dohayan pushed open the door to his apartment, expecting the usual warm greeting from his daughter. Instead, he found silence. The living room lights were dim, and something felt wrong. His wife Arya stood near the bedroom, her silver-tinted skin catching the fading sunlight through the window. She was packing a bag. "What's going on?" Dohayan asked, setting down his work tablet on the kitchen counter. His heart began to beat faster. Arya didn't look at him right away. Her elegant fingers, longer than human fingers, continued folding clothes and placing them carefully into the travel case. "We need to talk," she said quietly. Dohayan noticed his daughter Hannah sitting on the couch. The 8-year-old girl had her knees pulled up to her chest, her dual-colored eyes fixed on the floor. One eye was brown like his, the other was silver like her mother's. Those eyes were usually bright and curious, but today they looked scared. "Hannah, sweetheart, what's wrong?" Dohayan walked over and sat beside her. He reached out to touch her shoulder, but she flinched slightly. That hurt more than he wanted to admit. "Dad, I don't feel good," Hannah whispered. Her voice trembled. Arya finally turned around. Her face showed something Dohayan had never seen before in their 10 years together. Guilt. Deep, painful guilt. "Dohayan, there's something I never told you. Something I should have told you years ago." "What are you talking about?" He stood up, tension building in his chest. "Is Hannah sick? What's happening?" Arya took a deep breath. "Hannah is sick, yes. But it's not a disease you can cure with human medicine. It's her Valthene biology. She needs something I hoped she would never need." Dohayan knew his wife was Valthene, one of the alien species that had made contact with Earth 30 years ago. He had fallen in love with her despite the differences, despite the strange looks they got in public, despite everything. They had built a life together. They had Hannah together. Or so he thought. "What does she need?" he asked carefully. "She needs her biological father." The words hit Dohayan like a physical blow. He stumbled back a step. "What? I am her father. I've been her father since the day she was born. I was there, Arya. I held her first. I taught her to walk. I know," Arya interrupted, her voice breaking. "I know you are her father in every way that matters. But biologically, you are not. I was pregnant when I came to Earth. I was pregnant with Tamin's child." Tamin. The name meant nothing to Dohayan, but it clearly meant everything to Arya. And now, apparently, it meant everything to Hannah's survival. "Who is Tamin?" Dohayan demanded. "He was my partner on Mars. A Valthene military commander. We were together before I defected to Earth." Arya's silver skin seemed to pale. Valthene children need biological synchronization with their birth parents when they turn 8 years old. It's a neurological process. Without it, they experience severe problems. Pain, seizures, organ failure. Eventually death. Dohayan looked at Hannah. She was watching them both now, tears running down her cheeks. He had noticed she seemed tired lately, that she complained of headaches. Last week, her skin had started glowing faintly at night, a Valthene trait he had never seen in her before. "How long have you known about this?" he asked Arya. "I always knew it was a possibility," she admitted. "But I hoped her human genetics would be strong enough. I hoped I could protect her from this. From him. From my past. You lied to me." The anger was building now, hot and sharp. "For 8 years you lied to me." "I didn't lie. I just didn't tell you everything." "That's the same thing." Dohayan's voice rose. Hannah curled up tighter on the couch. He forced himself to calm down. Getting angry wouldn't help his daughter. "So what now? What are we supposed to do?" "I received a message from Tamin 3 days ago. He's on Mars, at Olympus Colony. He knows about Hannah. He wants us to come so he can perform the synchronization ritual." Arya moved closer to him. "Dohayan, I don't want to do this. But if we don't, Hannah will die." Dohayan looked at his daughter again. His little girl who loved Earth music and collected rocks from the park. Who made him birthday cards with messy drawings. Who called him Dad every single day. The thought of losing her made his chest feel hollow. Does he want to take her away? Dohayan asked quietly. Arya hesitated. I don't know what he wants. We haven't spoken in 9 years. But Valthene law is clear. Biological parents have rights. Strong rights. Rights to my daughter. Yes. The apartment fell silent except for Hannah's quiet crying. Dohayan walked over and knelt in front of her. He took her small hands in his. Hannah, look at me. She raised her mismatched eyes to meet his. I love you, he said firmly. You are my daughter. Nobody can change that. Not biology, not some law, not anyone. Do you understand? Hannah nodded, sniffling. I love you too, Dad. We're going to fix this, he promised. He didn't know how yet, but he meant it. He stood and faced Arya. When do we leave? We. Arya looked surprised. Dohayan, you don't have to come. This is Valthene business. It might be easier if... Easier, he interrupted. Easier for who? I'm not letting you take my daughter across space to meet some stranger without me. I'm going. Tameen isn't a stranger. He's her biological father. And I'm her real father, Dohayan shot back. The one who was there for every birthday, every nightmare, every scraped knee. Biology doesn't make you a parent. Being there does. And I'm going to be there now. Arya studied his face for a long moment. Finally, she nodded. Okay. We leave tomorrow. I already booked passage on a transport ship. It's a 3-week journey to Mars. 3 weeks, Dohayan repeated. 3 weeks to figure out how to save his family. 3 weeks before everything changed. That night, after Hannah fell asleep, Dohayan stood in her doorway watching her breathe. She looked so peaceful when she slept, so innocent. He remembered the first time he held her as a baby, how she had wrapped her tiny fingers around his thumb. She was his from that moment. Biology didn't matter then, and it shouldn't matter now. But the universe didn't care about what should or shouldn't matter. The universe had rules, cold and merciless. And those rules were about to tear his family apart. Arya came up behind him, her presence soft and familiar. I'm sorry, she whispered. I never wanted this. Why did you leave him? Dohayan asked. Why did you come to Earth? Because the Valthene military wanted to expand into human territory. They wanted to take your colonies, your resources. Tameen supported it. I couldn't. I spoke against it, and they called me a traitor. So I ran. She paused. I didn't know I was pregnant until I arrived on Earth. And I was too afraid to go back. Does he know? Did Tameen know you were carrying his child? He does now. Dohayan closed his eyes. A Valthene military commander who had lost both his partner and his child. Who probably spent 9 years searching for them. Who now had the law on his side and a biological connection Dohayan could never compete with. We'll face this together, Arya said, taking his hand. But as Dohayan looked at his sleeping daughter, he wondered if together would be enough. Tomorrow they would board a ship to Mars. Tomorrow everything would begin to fall apart. And there was nothing he could do to stop it. The transport ship New Horizon left Earth's atmosphere with a low rumble that Dohayan felt in his bones. He sat by the window watching his home planet shrink into a blue marble against the black void of space. Somewhere down there was his job, his apartment, his entire life. Now he was heading to Mars, chasing a future he couldn't predict. Hannah pressed her face against the window beside him, her breath fogging the glass. Will we come back, Dad? She asked quietly. Of course we will, Dohayan said, pulling her close. He hoped he wasn't lying. Arya sat across from them, her silver eyes distant. She had barely spoken since they boarded. The weight of secrets kept for 8 years seemed to press down on her shoulders. Dohayan wanted to be angry with her, and part of him was. But another part understood fear, understood desperation, understood the impossible choices parents sometimes had to make. The ship's captain, a stern woman named Minji, had explained the journey would take 3 weeks. 3 weeks in a metal tube floating through space. 3 weeks to watch his daughter's condition worsen. 3 weeks to prepare for meeting the man who could take everything away from him. On the 3rd day, Dohayan met Dr. Sunho in the ship's small medical bay. The doctor was a xenobiologist, someone who studied alien life forms and their interactions with humans. He was traveling to Mars for research purposes. Your daughter is half Valthine? Dr. Sunho asked, adjusting his glasses as he reviewed Hannah's medical scans. Yes, Do-Hyen replied. She needs some kind of biological synchronization. Do you know about it? Dr. Sunho nodded slowly. I've studied hybrid children for 15 years. The synchronization process is real and necessary. Valthine children develop a unique neural network that connects to their biological parents. Without proper connection, the network becomes unstable. How unstable? Seizures, organ failure, psychological breakdown. The statistics aren't good. Only about 40% of hybrid children survive past adolescence without intervention. Dr. Sunho looked at him with sympathetic eyes. You're doing the right thing by taking her to Mars. 40%. The number echoed in Do-Hyen's mind long after he left the medical bay. He had been angry at Arya for keeping secrets, angry at the universe for its cruel biological rules. But now fear replaced anger. His daughter might die. That reality was bigger than his hurt feelings. That night, Hannah had her first seizure. Do-Hyen was reading in their cabin when he heard the thud. Hannah had fallen from her bed, her body rigid and shaking. Her skin flickered with bioluminescent patterns, glowing silver and blue in the darkness. Arya rushed in and knelt beside her, speaking in the Valthine language, words Do-Hyen had never learned. What's happening to her? Do-Hyen demanded, his voice breaking. The synchronization need is getting stronger, Arya said, trying to hold Hannah steady. Her Valthine biology is searching for Tamin's neural signature. When it can't find it, her system goes into distress. Dr. Sunho arrived with medical equipment. He injected Hannah with something that slowly calmed the seizure. When it was over, Hannah lay exhausted and pale on the floor, whimpering softly. Do-Hyen picked her up and held her against his chest, feeling her small heart racing. How long until we reach Mars? He asked. 18 more days, Arya whispered. 18 days felt like forever. The seizures became more frequent. Every other day, sometimes every day. Do-Hyen stopped sleeping properly, always listening for the sound of Hannah falling, the sound of her pain. He would hold her through each episode, singing the lullabies he had sung to her since she was a baby. Earth songs about stars and moonlight and safe harbors. Arya watched from doorways, her face twisted with guilt and grief. She tried to help, tried to use Valthine techniques to calm Hannah's biology, but nothing worked for long. The only thing that seemed to comfort Hannah was Do-Hyen's voice, his presence, his steady arms around her. On day 10, Arya finally broke down. Do-Hyen found her in the observation deck, staring out at the stars with tears streaming down her face. In all their years together, he had never seen her cry. Valthine didn't cry often. Their tear ducts worked differently, producing crystalline drops that caught the light like diamonds. I destroyed everything, Arya said when she noticed him. I ran from Tamin because I was afraid. I kept the truth from you because I was selfish. And now Hannah is suffering because of my choices. Do-Hyen sat beside her. He was still hurt, still angry, but seeing her pain softened something in him. Why did you really leave Mars? The full truth. Arya was quiet for a long moment. Tamin is a good man in many ways. Strong, honorable, dedicated to his people. But he's also rigid. He believes Valthine are superior to humans. He supported the military expansion plans without question. When I argued against it, when I said humans deserved respect and autonomy, he called me weak. Said I was contaminated by human sympathy. And then you found out you were pregnant. Yes. I realized I couldn't raise a child in that environment. I couldn't raise Hannah to see humans as lesser beings. So I came to Earth. I thought I could build a different life. I thought love would be enough. She looked at him. I did love you, Do-Hyen. I do love you. This wasn't a lie. But you knew this day might come. I hoped it wouldn't. Hoped her human genetics would be dominant enough. Hoped we would have more time. Arya's voice cracked. I never wanted you to feel like you weren't her real father. You are. In every way that matters, you are. Do-Hyen took her hand. Her skin was cool, smooth, different from human skin but familiar after 10 years. When we get to Mars, what happens? Does Tamin want you back? I don't know. His message was formal, clinical. He said Hannah needed the synchronization. He said we should come immediately. He didn't say anything about us, about our past. Arya squeezed his hand. But I know him. He doesn't let go of things easily. If he wants his family back, he'll fight for it. And what do you want? Arya looked at him with those silver eyes, and Dohayan saw the conflict there. She was torn between two worlds, two lives, two versions of herself. I want Hannah to live. Everything else is secondary. It wasn't the answer Dohayan wanted, but he understood it. He was a father. He felt the same way. The next week passed in a blur of medical emergencies and sleepless nights. Hannah's condition deteriorated faster. Her skin began to crystallize in patches, a Valthene stress response that Dr. Sunho said was extremely dangerous. The crystals formed along her arms and neck, hard and sharp like broken glass. Dohayan spent hours researching Valthene biology on the ship's database, trying to understand what was happening to his daughter. He learned about their complex nervous systems, their telepathic abilities, their rigid social structures. He learned that biological bonds were sacred to them, more important than emotional bonds. It terrified him. On day 19, Captain Minji announced they were approaching Mars. Through the observation window, Dohayan could see the red planet growing larger. Dust storms swirled across its surface like angry gods. Somewhere down there was Olympus colony. Somewhere down there was Tamine. Hannah was too weak to walk now. Dohayan carried her to the window to see Mars. She rested her head on his shoulder, her breathing shallow. Will it hurt? She asked quietly. The synchronization? I don't know, sweetheart, Dohayan admitted. But whatever happens, I'll be right there with you. Promise. Promise. But even as he said it, Dohayan wondered if it was a promise he could keep. Valthene law might not allow him in the room. Tamine might not want him there. He might have to watch from outside while another man connected with his daughter in ways he never could. The ship began its descent through Mars' thin atmosphere. Red dust streaked past the windows. Arya stood beside them, her hand on Hannah's back, her face unreadable. He'll be waiting at the landing platform, Arya said softly. Tamine. He'll want to see Hannah immediately. Dohayan's jaw tightened. Then he'll see all of us. The ship touched down with a gentle thud. Through the window, Dohayan could see the colony's dome structures and the red landscape beyond. He could see figures waiting on the platform. One stood taller than the others, his posture military straight. Tamine. Dohayan held Hannah closer and stepped toward the airlock. Whatever happened next, whatever fell apart, he would face it. For his daughter, he would face anything. The airlock hissed open and Mars air rushed in, filtered and processed but still carrying the faint metallic taste of red dust. Dohayan stepped onto the platform carrying Hannah, her weight light in his arms but her breathing labored. Arya followed close behind, her silver skin seeming to glow brighter under Mars' pale sunlight. Tamine stood waiting 30 feet away. He was tall, nearly 7 feet, with a distinctive silver-blue skin of pure Valthene. His military uniform was pristine, marked with insignia Dohayan didn't recognize. But it was his eyes that struck Dohayan the most. They were identical to Hannah's left eye, that same silver color that seemed to catch and hold light. Those eyes fixed on the small girl in Dohayan's arms with an intensity that made Dohayan's grip tighten protectively. Arya, Tamine said, his voice deep and formal. He spoke in perfect English, though his accent carried the musical quality of the Valthene language. You look well. Tamine, Arya replied, her voice carefully neutral. Thank you for agreeing to help. Tamine's gaze shifted to Dohayan, assessing him with the cold precision of a military commander. You must be the human. Dohayan. I'm Hannah's father, Dohayan corrected, meeting those silver eyes without flinching. And yes, I'm human. Something flickered across Tamine's face. Surprise, maybe, or disapproval. I see. He gestured to a young Valthene woman standing behind him. This is Jaiwan, our colony's healer. She will examine the child. Her name is Hannah, Dohayan said firmly. Hannah, Tamine repeated, as if tasting the name. May I see her? Every instinct in Dohayan screamed to say no, to turn around and carry Hannah back onto the ship. But he saw the crystalline patches spreading across his daughter's neck, heard her struggling breaths. He needed to put her health above his fear. "You can look," Dohayan said. "But I'm not putting her down." Tameen approached slowly, his movements careful and deliberate. When he got within a few feet, something extraordinary happened. Hannah's eyes opened, and her skin began to glow. The bioluminescent patterns that had been flickering erratically for weeks suddenly synchronized, pulsing in steady rhythms across her small body. Tameen extended one long finger and touched Hannah's hand. The effect was immediate. Hannah gasped, her back arching, but not in pain. The crystalline patches on her skin began to soften and fade. Her breathing eased. Color returned to her pale cheeks. She looked at Tameen with wide eyes, recognition sparking in her silver one. "Papa," she whispered in a small, confused voice. The word stabbed through Dohayan's chest like a knife. Hannah had never called him Papa, always Dad. But somehow she knew this stranger, recognized him on a level deeper than conscious memory. The biological bond was real and undeniable. "Yes, little one," Tameen said softly, his formal manner cracking to show something almost tender. "I am here now. You are safe." Dohayan wanted to pull Hannah away, wanted to shout that he was the one who kept her safe all these years. But he could see the change in his daughter, could see how Tameen's mere presence was healing her in ways human medicine couldn't. It hurt worse than anything he had ever felt. Jaiwan, the healer, stepped forward with a medical scanner. "The biological resonance is strong, but the synchronization must happen soon. Her human genetics have delayed the process, but they cannot prevent it entirely. Without the full ritual, she will deteriorate again within hours." "How long does the ritual take?" Arya asked. 7 days, Tameen answered, his hand still touching Hannah's. 7 days of isolated connection between biological parent and child. It is our way. It has been our way for thousands of years. Isolated. Dohayan felt panic rising. "What does that mean?" "It means Hannah will be in a sealed biochamber with me," Tameen explained, finally looking up at Dohayan. "No one else can be present. The neural pathways must form without interference or confusion. It is delicate work." "No," Dohayan said immediately. "No, I'm not letting you take her somewhere I can't see her for a week. She needs me. She'll be scared." "She needs her biological father more," Tameen replied, his voice hardening. "This is not negotiable. This is Valthene law and Valthene biology. Human attachment, while admirable, is irrelevant to survival." Dohayan felt rage building in his chest. "Human attachment? I raised her. I was there for every moment of her life. You're the stranger here, not me." "Gentlemen, please," Arya intervened, stepping between them. "Fighting won't help Hannah." A new voice cut through the tension. "She's right. This dispute needs to go through proper channels." A human woman in official colony uniform approached. She was older, maybe 60, with sharp eyes and gray hair pulled back severely. "I'm Governor Hyojin. I run Olympus Colony. And I'm afraid Valthene law is clear on this matter. In medical emergencies involving hybrid children, biological parents have absolute authority." "That's insane," Dohayan protested. "I have rights too. I'm her father in every way that matters." "Not according to the treaties Earth signed with the Valthene Collective," Governor Hyojin said, though her tone carried sympathy. "I understand your position, Mr. Dohayan. But my hands are tied. If you interfere with the synchronization ritual, I'll have to detain you for Hannah's own safety." Dohayan looked at Arya, hoping for support. She met his eyes, and he saw the conflict there, the pain. But ultimately she nodded. "Tameen is right. The ritual can't be disrupted. It's too dangerous." "So you're taking his side?" Dohayan asked, his voice breaking. "After everything?" "I'm taking Hannah's side," Arya said quietly. "That's all I can do." Tameen gently reached out, and Dohayan realized with horror that he was trying to take Hannah from his arms. Every fiber of his being resisted. But Hannah was looking at Tameen with trust, her small arms reaching out to him. The biological pull was stronger than anything Dohayan could offer in that moment. With trembling hands, Dohayan transferred his daughter to Tameen's arms. Hannah settled against the Valthene's chest, her bioluminescence synchronizing perfectly with his. She looked peaceful in a way she hadn't in weeks. "I'll take good care of her," Tameen said, and there was something in his voice that might have been understanding. "You have my word as a commander and as her father." "I'm her father," Dohayan said hoarsely. "You're just her biology." Tameen's expression hardened again. "We will see." He turned to Jaiwan. "Prepare the bio-chamber. We begin immediately." Dohayan watched helplessly as Tameen carried Hannah toward a large building with a domed roof. Medical staff followed. Hannah looked back once, her mismatched eyes finding Dohayan's. She raised one small hand in a wave. "Dad," she called out weakly. At least she still called him Dad. The next hour passed in a blur. Governor Hyojin showed them to guest quarters, explaining the colony's rules and regulations. Dohayan barely heard her. His mind was stuck on the image of Hannah in Tameen's arms, looking content, looking like she belonged there. Arya tried to talk to him, but he couldn't face her. He went to the observation window overlooking the bio-chamber facility. Through the reinforced glass, he could see into a large circular room. Tameen sat cross-legged on the floor with Hannah in front of him, their hands clasped. Both glowed with synchronized patterns of silver and blue light. They were meditating, or whatever the Valthene called it. Their neural pathways were connecting, forming bonds that would save Hannah's life. Bonds that would also tie her to Tameen forever. Dohayan pressed his hand against the glass. He had carried Hannah for 3 weeks across space. He had held her through seizures and pain. He had sung her to sleep every night of her life. And now he could only watch as someone else became essential to her survival. A young Valthene guard approached. "Sir, you cannot stay here. The observation area is restricted during synchronization." "I'm not leaving," Dohayan said flatly. "Sir, I have orders to remove you if necessary." Dohayan turned to face the guard, ready to fight if needed. But then he saw Arya standing behind the guard, her face pleading. She shook her head slightly. Fighting would only make things worse. It might even hurt Hannah. With immense effort, Dohayan walked away from the window. But as he left, he caught one more glimpse through the glass. Hannah was smiling at Tameen, genuinely smiling, in a way that Dohayan had never seen. She looked happy. That hurt most of all. That night, unable to sleep, Dohayan accessed the colony's public records. He searched for everything about Tameen. Military commendations, service records, personal history. What he found made his stomach sink. Tameen wasn't just any commander. He was decorated, respected, powerful. He had connections throughout the Valthene collective. And according to several legal documents Dohayan didn't fully understand, Tameen had filed custody claims for Hannah. He wanted his daughter permanently on Mars. More than that, there were communication logs between Tameen and Valthene High Command discussing Arya's return. They wanted her tried for desertion. But Tameen had negotiated a deal. If Arya returned willingly with Hannah, the charges would be dropped. They could be a family again under Valthene law. A family that didn't include Dohayan. He stared at the screen, feeling his world crumbling. He had traveled to Mars to save his daughter. But maybe he had really just delivered her to the man who would take her away forever. 4 days into the ritual, Dohayan couldn't take it anymore. He had barely eaten, barely slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Hannah reaching for Tameen, calling him Papa. The observation windows were restricted now, but Dohayan had found ways to catch glimpses. Each time, Hannah looked healthier, brighter, more connected to the tall Valthene commander than to the human who raised her. Arya tried to comfort him, but she was dealing with her own conflicts. Tameen had sent her private messages, asking to meet, to talk. She refused at first, but on the 3rd day she went. She came back quiet and distant, and wouldn't tell Dohayan what they discussed. That's when Dohayan decided to dig deeper. His engineering skills weren't just for defense grids back on Earth. He knew systems, knew security, knew how to find information people wanted hidden. Late on the 4th night, he hacked into the colony's communication network. It took 3 hours and several close calls with security alerts, but eventually he found what he was looking for. Private communications between Tameen and Valthene High Command. Dohayan's hands shook as he read through the messages. The synchronization ritual was real, that much was true. But Tameen had additional plans. Legal documents prepared for permanent custody. Transport arrangements to take Hannah and Arya back to the Valthene homeworld in 2 weeks. A complete family reunion under Valthene law, where biological bonds meant everything and human attachments meant nothing. There was more. Messages between Tamine and Valthene officials discussing Arya's desertion charges. Tamine had negotiated immunity for her, but only if she returned with Hannah. If Arya refused, she would face trial. If she tried to take Hannah back to Earth, it would be considered kidnapping under interspecies law. Tamine had them trapped. Dohayan saved the evidence to a secure drive and went straight to Governor Hyagin's office. It was early morning, Mars sunrise painting the dome structures orange and red. The governor was already at her desk, reviewing reports. "Mr. Dohayan," she said, looking up. "You look terrible. Are you sleeping?" "I found something," Dohayan said, bypassing pleasantries. He showed her the drive. "Tamine is planning to take Hannah permanently. This whole thing is a setup. The ritual is real, but it's also cover for kidnapping my daughter." Governor Hyagin took the drive and reviewed the contents on her screen. Her expression remained carefully neutral. After several long minutes, she looked up at him. "Where did you get this information?" "Does it matter? It's real. You can verify it." "I don't need to verify it," she said quietly. "I already knew." Dohayan felt like he'd been punched. "You knew? You knew Tamine was planning this, and you didn't tell me." "It's not illegal, Mr. Dohayan. Under Valthene law, biological parents have absolute rights to their children. Tamine filed the proper custody documents. Everything he's doing is legal." "Legal?" Dohayan's voice rose. "He's stealing my daughter." "He's claiming his daughter," Governor Hyagin corrected. "I understand how you feel. But Olympus Colony operates under a hybrid legal system. We must respect both human and Valthene law. In this case, Valthene law is clear." "So you're just going to let him take her?" "Let him take both of them." Governor Hyagin's expression softened slightly. "The colony depends on Valthene technology and protection. We can't afford to antagonize their military command over what they consider a family matter. I'm sorry, but my hands are tied." Dohayan stared at her, understanding finally settling in. Politics. Everything came down to politics. Mars Colony needed the Valthene more than they cared about one human's broken heart. "You're all the same," Dohayan said bitterly. "Valthene human doesn't matter. You all choose power over what's right." He left before the governor could respond. Dohayan spent the rest of the day planning something desperate. If the law wouldn't help him, if politics wouldn't help him, then he would take matters into his own hands. He studied the bio-chamber facility's layout, security rotations, access points. The ritual was in its 5th day. Hannah had 2 more days locked away with Tamine. 2 more days for Dohayan to act. That evening, he made his move. The facility had minimal security at night. Most Valthene didn't sleep like humans, but they did meditate in cycles. Dohayan waited until the guard rotation changed, then slipped through a maintenance corridor he'd identified earlier. His heart pounded as he moved through shadows, every sound seeming too loud. He reached the bio-chamber door. It was sealed with Valthene technology, but Dohayan had studied the locking mechanism. It took precious minutes, but he managed to bypass the first layer of security. Just one more lock and he could get to Hannah, could grab her and run to the transport bay where ships came and went daily. The alarm sounded before he could finish. Red lights flashed. Doors sealed automatically. Within seconds, Valthene guards surrounded him, their weapons drawn. Dohayan raised his hands, knowing his desperate plan had failed. Tamine emerged from the bio-chamber, his expression furious. "What do you think you're doing?" "Saving my daughter from you," Dohayan shot back. "You just endangered her life." Tamine's voice boomed. The ritual was at a critical stage. Your interference could have caused permanent neurological damage. She could have died. The words hit Dohayan like physical blows. He hadn't thought about that. He had been so focused on stopping Tamine, on keeping Hannah, that he hadn't considered the consequences of interrupting the synchronization. The guards dragged Dohayan to the colony's detention center. Hours later, Arya came to see him. Her face was a mask of anger and disappointment. What were you thinking? She demanded through the cell barrier. I was thinking that I'm losing my daughter, Do-Hyen said. I was thinking that you both are going back to the Valthene homeworld and I'll never see Hannah again. So you decided to risk killing her? I didn't know it would hurt her. I just wanted to get her away from him. Arya closed her silver eyes. Taemin showed me his plans. The custody documents, the transport arrangements. He told me everything. And you're okay with it? Do-Hyen stood up, gripping the barrier. You're just going to go along with his plan? I don't know. Arya's composure cracked. I don't know what I want anymore. I've been on Earth for 9 years. I built a life there, a life with you. But being here, being around my own people again, seeing Hannah connect with her biological father, it's confusing. Do you still love him? Arya was quiet for a long moment. I don't know if I ever stopped. But I love you too. That's the problem. I'm torn between 2 worlds, 2 lives. And no matter what I choose, someone gets hurt. What about what Hannah wants? She's 8 years old. She doesn't know what she wants. All she knows is that Taemin makes her feel better, makes her pain go away. And what do I make her feel? Do-Hyen asked quietly. Safe. Loved. Human. Arya touched the barrier between them. But maybe that's not enough anymore. The words shattered something in Do-Hyen. He sank back onto the cell's bench, staring at nothing. Arya left without another word. The next morning, Dr. Sunho arrived from Earth on a research vessel. He heard about Do-Hyen's situation and came to the detention center immediately. The doctor looked agitated, excited even. I need to see Taemin and the governor immediately, Dr. Sunho said. I have new research about hybrid children. Critical research. Within an hour, they were all assembled in a conference room. Do-Hyen was brought in with guards. Taemin stood by the window, his posture rigid. Governor Hyojin sat at the table. Arya stood in the corner, her arms wrapped around herself. Dr. Sunho activated a holographic display. I've been studying hybrid children for 15 years. But I've made a breakthrough in the last few weeks analyzing Hannah's medical data. The synchronization ritual, as practiced by the Valthene, was never designed for hybrid children. It was designed for pure Valthene. What are you saying? Taemin demanded. I'm saying that Hannah needs both biological parents present for successful synchronization. Her Valthene side needs you, Commander. But her human side has neurologically imprinted on Do-Hyen. She needs him too. That's impossible, Taemin said. Humans don't have the neural capacity for synchronization. Not biological synchronization, no. But emotional and psychological bonding creates neural pathways just as real as genetic ones. Hannah's brain is hybrid. It operates on both systems simultaneously. Dr. Sunho pulled up brain scans. Look at these patterns. The Valthene neural network is connecting to you, Commander. But the human neural network is searching for Do-Hyen. Without both connections, the synchronization is incomplete. The ritual has been working, Taemin argued. She's healing. Is she? Dr. Sunho pulled up more recent scans. Look at day 4. Look at day 5. The improvement has plateaued. She's not getting worse, but she's not getting better either. Her human side is in distress because Do-Hyen isn't there. The room fell silent. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the facility. A medical emergency alert flashed on everyone's devices. Jaiwan's voice came through the communication system, panicked and urgent. Medical emergency in biochamber. Hannah's vital signs are crashing. We need help now. Everyone ran. Do-Hyen reached the biochamber first, his guards struggling to keep up. He burst through the doors to find Hannah convulsing on the medical table, her skin flickering between pale human tones and glowing Valthene silver. The crystalline patches had returned worse than before, spreading across her chest and face like shattered glass. Jaiwan and 2 other medical staff worked frantically, but nothing seemed to help. Monitors screamed warnings. Hannah's heart rate was erratic, her breathing shallow and desperate. What happened? Taemin demanded, rushing in behind Do-Hyen. The synchronization reversed, Jaiwan said, her voice strained. Her neural networks are rejecting each other. The Valthene patterns and human patterns are fighting instead of integrating. I've never seen anything like this. Dr. Sunho pushed past everyone to examine the monitors. It's exactly what I warned about. She needs both fathers. Now. That's not possible, Taemin insisted. The ritual requires biological connection. The human has no genetic link to her. But he has a neurological link, Dr. Sunho argued. 8 years of bonding, of care, of love. That created real pathways in her brain. You're trying to complete half a synchronization. It's killing her. Hana screamed, a sound that tore through Do-hyen's heart. Her back arched off the table, and her eyes rolled back. The monitors showed her vital signs dropping rapidly. We're losing her, Jaiwan said urgently. Commander, you must decide now. Taemin stared at Hana, conflict written across his face. Everything in his culture, his training, his beliefs told him that only biological bonds mattered. But his daughter was dying. Finally, he looked at Do-hyen. Can you help her? Taemin asked, the words seeming to cost him greatly. I don't know, Do-hyen admitted. But I'll try anything. Taemin nodded sharply. Then do it. Both of us. Together. They moved to either side of Hana's medical table. Jaiwan quickly explained what they needed to do. Taemin would channel his biological energy through one hand while Do-hyen provided emotional stability through the other. It had never been attempted before. It might not work. But it was Hana's only chance. Do-hyen took Hana's left hand. It was small and cold, trembling with seizures. Taemin took her right hand, his silver skin immediately beginning to glow in response to the biological connection. Now what? Do-hyen asked. Now you do what you've always done, Dr. Sunho said. Be her father. Do-hyen didn't know any Valthene meditation techniques or biological channeling methods. He only knew the things he had done for 8 years. So he started singing. It was the lullaby he sang every night when Hana couldn't sleep. An old Earth song about stars and dreams and safe harbors. His voice was rough with emotion, breaking on certain words, but he kept singing. Hana's left eye, the brown one, flickered open slightly. Recognition sparked there. That's it, Dr. Sunho encouraged. Keep going. Taemin, focus your biological synchronization. Do-hyen, maintain the emotional connection. Taemin closed his eyes, his body beginning to glow with soft silver light. Complex patterns flowed across his skin, ancient Valthene neural signatures that had been passed down through thousands of generations. The light flowed down his arm into Hana's hand. Do-hyen kept singing, kept holding Hana's hand, kept being the presence he had always been in her life. He thought about teaching her to ride a bicycle, about reading bedtime stories, about making breakfast on Sunday mornings. He poured every memory, every moment of love into that connection. Slowly, impossibly, Hana's vital signs began to stabilize. Her skin stopped flickering and settled into a steady glow. The crystalline patches began to dissolve. Her breathing deepened and evened out. On the monitors, her brain activity showed something new, something the medical staff had never seen before. 2 separate neural networks, one Valthene and one human, running parallel and in harmony. It's working, Jaiwan whispered in amazement. The process took hours. Do-hyen's voice grew hoarse from singing, but he didn't stop. Taemin's glow never wavered, his military discipline keeping him focused despite obvious exhaustion. And between them, Hana healed. When her eyes finally opened fully, both eyes looked clear and bright. She looked at Taemin, then at Do-hyen, then smiled weakly. Papa. Dad, she whispered. You're both here. Something passed between Taemin and Do-hyen in that moment. An understanding, perhaps. A shared experience that transcended their differences. They had both nearly lost her. They had both fought to save her. And they had both succeeded only by working together. Hana fell into a peaceful sleep, the first real sleep she'd had in weeks. Jaiwan confirmed that her vital signs were completely stable, her neural networks perfectly synchronized. The hybrid synchronization was complete. Do-hyen and Taemin stepped out of the medical room together. Arya waited in the hallway, tears streaming down her face. She hugged Hana through the observation window, relief overwhelming her. Thank you, Taemin said to Do-hyen, for saving our daughter. Our daughter, Do-hyun repeated. The words felt strange but right. I guess she really does need both of us. Yes, Taemin acknowledged. I was wrong. I believed biology was everything. But what you have with Hannah, that bond you built through years of care, it is as real as genetic connection. Perhaps more real. They stood in silence for a moment, watching Hannah sleep peacefully. What happens now? Do-hyun asked. You still have those custody documents. You still have your plans. Taemin's expression hardened slightly, then softened. I made those plans out of anger and pride. I lost Arya 9 years ago. I lost the chance to see Hannah grow up. I wanted to reclaim what was taken from me. He paused. But Hannah was never taken. She was raised. She was loved. By you. So you're giving up custody? No, Taemin said. But I'm willing to share it. Hannah needs both of us. That means we must find a way to both be in her life. Governor Hyojin approached, having observed everything. There is a solution, she offered. The Valthene embassy on Earth has been looking for a new military liaison. Commander Taemin, you could request that position. You would be stationed on Earth, near Hannah. Taemin considered this. I would have to leave Mars. Leave my command here. Is your pride worth more than your daughter? Do-hyun asked quietly. Taemin looked at him sharply, then his expression softened. No, it is not. He turned to the governor. I will request the transfer. Arya joined them, her eyes red but hopeful. You would come to Earth? Really? Our daughter needs both her fathers, Taemin said. And perhaps I need to understand the world you chose. The world where love matters as much as biology. What about us? Arya asked carefully. What about our past? Taemin looked at her with those silver eyes, and Do-hyun saw old love there, old pain. We cannot go back to what we were. Too much has changed. You built a new life, a good life. I will not destroy that. He glanced at Do-hyun. But perhaps we can build something new. For Hannah's sake. Over the next 3 days, they worked out the details. Taemin would transfer to Earth in 2 months, after arranging his replacement on Mars. Hannah would live primarily with Do-hyun and Arya, but spend time with Taemin regularly. They would share decisions about her upbringing, her education, her future. It wouldn't be easy. There would be conflicts, misunderstandings, cultural clashes. But they would try. On the day they prepared to leave Mars, Taemin came to say goodbye to Hannah. She ran to him and hugged him tightly, and he held her with surprising gentleness for such a large, imposing figure. I will see you soon, little one, he promised. I know, Papa, Hannah said. Then she pulled back and took Taemin's hand and Do-hyun's hand, holding them both. I have 2 dads now. That's pretty cool, right? Both men looked at each other over her head. It was awkward, uncomfortable, unprecedented. But looking at Hannah's happy face, her healthy glow, her bright eyes, they both nodded. Yes, Do-hyun said. Pretty cool. The transport ship lifted off from Mars, red dust swirling in its wake. Do-hyun sat by the window with Hannah in his lap, Arya beside them. Through the viewport, he could see Taemin standing on the landing platform, watching them go. The Valthene commander raised one hand in farewell. Hannah waved back enthusiastically. Dad? Hannah asked as Mars grew smaller behind them. Yes, sweetheart. Are you and Papa going to be friends? Do-hyun thought about that. Friends seemed like too strong a word. They were too different, had too much history, too much conflict. But they shared something important now. They shared her. Maybe not friends, Do-hyun said honestly. But we're family. That's even better. Hannah seemed satisfied with that answer. She snuggled against his chest and closed her eyes, her dual-colored eyes that represented both her fathers, both her worlds. Arya took Do-hyun's hand. I'm sorry, she said quietly. For all the secrets, for all the pain. I never wanted any of this. I know, Do-hyun replied. But maybe it worked out the way it needed to. Hannah's alive. She's healthy. And she has everyone who loves her. Even if it's complicated? Especially because it's complicated, Do-hyun said. The best families usually are. He had traveled to Mars expecting everything to fall apart. And it had. His certainties about fatherhood, his exclusive claim to Hannah, his marriage to Arya, everything had shattered. But from those broken pieces, something new had formed. Something stronger. Being a real father wasn't about biology or exclusivity or having all the answers. It was about showing up, even when everything fell apart. It was about putting your child's needs above your pride. It was about sharing love instead of hoarding it. Dohayan looked down at his sleeping daughter and smiled. The journey to Mars had cost him more than he ever imagined. But it had also given him something unexpected. Not just one father for Hannah, but two. Not a broken family, but an expanded one. The ship accelerated toward Earth, toward home, toward a future none of them could have predicted. But whatever came next, they would face it together. All of them. And that made all the difference.